Washington, drop it. Power panel. Brett Ehrlich, Jake Huger, Brooke Thomas, John Idalola.
I'll take it.
Or someone.
Idalola, he was a showgirl.
You're the second person to sing that this week.
Nice.
I can't take a break. No one in history has had more nicknames with no winners among them.
Yeah.
Wait, Johnny Two Skypes. On the damage report, when we have two Skypes, he's Johnny Two Skypes. That's the name of the rundown in our program.
I'll accept that. Today we did have two Skypes, indeed.
Yes, and when we were covering elections earlier in the week, like 8 times over, there was a comedian who ran in one of the elections, and his name was Jimmy Tingle.
Yeah, I saw that.
And which I think is kind of an unfortunate name. I think it might actually be his real name.
I think it might be.
Okay, and he lost, but he got 40%, which is actually shockingly good.
Yeah.
So anyway, John does have a ton of nicknames. By the way, one of my rare nicknames, I am the great dispenser of nicknames, but I do not receive many back, okay? So, and hence the only nicknames are the ones I have given myself.
Wait, what have you given yourself?
Jank 2-pack. Because I started 2 packs, Wolfpack and Just Democrats.
Okay.
So tickled.
And when I got arrested, I told a longer version of this story during a post game, tyt.com/join, which we'll talk about in a second. But when I got arrested for civil disobedience to get money out of politics in Washington, D.C., they say, do you have any known aliases?
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, why, of course I do.
So you gave a list?
No, I just said, I said, El Jefe. I always wanted to be known as El Jefe. So now, literally, in my criminal record, it says Jake Euchre, AKA El Jefe. How cool is that?
If you were to do that, if you were to do that now, you'd just be deported. No proceedings, deported.
Way to seize an opportunity.
I know, right?
I wonder, do most people answer no to that question, I imagine?
I imagine if they have actual aliases.
But you say no.
Right, I don't think that they're like, oh yeah, Johnny Two Cakes, right?
Let me tell you, if they're talking about so-and-so, that's me.
Cakes.
Anybody else in here? What?
Oh, that's the name of the guy with the Asio or Janto or whatever. His name was Johnny Two Takes or whatever.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because he did everything in 2 takes. Anyway, I don't even remember if it was Johnny. But I can't wait for John to get arrested because when they ask him for an alias, he's like, you better sit down. It's gonna take a while. All right, anyways, we have a huge show ahead for you guys. We've got amazing stories about Donald Trump, of course. We have an amazingly yellow dress on from Brooke Thomas. And everybody in here was taking 28 selfies when I walked in. I've got other things to say. All right, so in the beginning of the week, we told you we're launching a membership drive. I'm going to give you the exciting number we're at now. We're doing something crazy. We're telling you how many paid subscribers we have. No one else on the planet does that. We're updating it daily for you guys. We started the week at 27,661. That is incredibly specific. We update it for you all the time. There it is. There's hold. Don't tell what we got so far. Anna said in the beginning of the day, can we see 30,000 by the end of the day? And the answer was a resounding no, we could not. That's crazy. Of course, not that many people are going to sign up in one day. And I said, Anna, that might take a while. Or did it? Okay, so hold. Okay, you never know with us, you never know. Okay, so every day we've been giving you something a little extra. Now, next week, we're gonna start progressive videos, okay? On different topics, and you're gonna love them. And part of what you're doing is when you sign up for membership is you get all the shows that we currently have, but we're also giving you more and more content. So soon, John is gonna do a video about climate change that definitively proves it. You can send to your conservative aunts and uncles where people go, oh, well, I didn't know that chart. I didn't know the temperature was going up every day. Okay, so John didn't know that, but he knows.
I just discovered that.
Okay, well,
I knew before you did.
Well, John, you're True North. How could you not do one on
Just
climate
go
change?
watch True North. That'll prove it.
Okay, well, that's a little bit longer than the video we're going to make. And I'm reading the nice comments too, but I got a fun, excellent news for you today too as to what you're gonna get if you're a member, which I think you're gonna love. But first, a couple of really nice comments. We really enjoy these. So I'm going to go to, who am I going to? Arthur Clark, okay? He said, I'm your newest activist member. I'm happy to take part in this fight in one of the only ways that I can. Well, Arthur, God bless your heart. So there's 2 levels. There's Insider, that's $4.99. There's Activist, that's $10. You get more for Activist, plus you help build the home of progressives. So Arthur, bless your heart. Now I'm doing a shout out to Emily English, and she wrote in, been a member for over a year, but still watch on YouTube. You guys are the only thing getting me through this presidency. Every day you help me catch my breath about it all. And thank you for being the activists you are. You guys make me feel like we, the people, can actually save our future. Team TYT for life.
Nice.
Okay, excellent. We have to come up with some sort of a gang sign, obviously. Okay. And I think we tried this a long time ago, me and Jesus. Didn't really work.
There is one though.
Is there?
You do this.
No, you don't.
All right. I'm gonna do a stomp the yard version, which is TYT, and that's just a pitch.
And you know what?
And then you go like that, TYT.
Right, that could be like the birdie that landed on Bernie's podium.
Yeah,
right?
It lands down TYT. John hates it. John hates it.
It's very fraggy.
Just such
I like
contempt
it.
for that idea.
It would crack me up if Brett did that.
The worst part is I could see it in the monitor, and as I started, I knew it was a failure.
But you kept going, you know.
Although, you know, if you really want a tough gang sign, though, you really do want to do this. Hey guys. Anyway,
It's really good in Stomp the
so
Yard when they go like.
before I get to the numbers, so here's the fun, great thing you guys are gonna get to. So we have a newsletter, and so people love the newsletter so far. I read it, I'm like, oh wait, I didn't know that story. That's a good story. And we have something extra in there. When we have special guests on, we ask them, or even if they're not guests, if they're great progressives, we asked them 5 burning questions, which is kind of an interesting name. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez participated. So if you're a member, you get the newsletter and you get to find out the answers to questions such as, what was her proudest moment? And the reality show she didn't miss while campaigning.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so you know what? I didn't read it yet. Now all of a sudden I'm like, wait, where's my newsletter?
Right.
Okay, so tyt.com/join, obviously, to become a member. tyt.com/join. So now, at the end of the week, did we get the 30,000? The big reveal. What's he doing? Drop it. No.
So close.
I told you, you never know with us. Every other show would have been a big lead up to 30,000. No, with us, no, that's the real number. What can I do?
But the day's not over.
Right.
Well, wait a minute, that's true.
Close.
The day is not over.
There's hours left.
127.
Yeah.
That's it.
Gift
We can
someone.
do that.
Yeah.
We can do that right now. tyt.com/join. Okay. I think True North is right. I think we can do it.
Is there any coincidence that 27 is in the number?
What is
Okay,
that?
I have no idea.
I think
what
it's the
that
number
Average
23
donation.
is the.
Oh, I see the average donation. Oh,
Look at him
you know
go.
what?
Stop it, don't. It's mocking and I can handle it, but I honestly don't want to see TYT people out there going like this.
If you see Brett on the street, please do
greet
some
him.
sort of bird motion. A pecking maybe, I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Maybe your nickname could be Birdman.
I'll take it, I don't have a nickname.
That's true. It's weird you don't have a nickname. All right, we'll work on that. Yes, and then we got to get one for Brooke, etc. All right. So, having said that, thank you guys, and thank you to all the members for making this show possible. One last time, tyt.com/join. All right, let's get started.
Okay, I want to start off with a little bit of recently breaking news. This happened within an hour of the show happening, and that is that George Papadopoulos, former Trump campaign aide, has actually been sentenced. He has gotten 14 days in jail. That's not very long.
Oh
actually.
my God, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Down goes Papadopoulos.
An entire fortnight, John?
Yeah.
Is that?
He's
40
got
nights?
he's
Never
got
mind.
he's getting 1.4 Scaramucci's in jail, basically. So also 1 year of supervised release and yada yada yada, some other stuff or whatever. But just 14 days for lying to the FBI about his involvement with Russians, conversations, Trump campaign, blah blah blah.
Okay, it seems fairly anticlimactic, and I'll tell you, especially because first they gave evidence about Trump presumably in the campaign, and so they got a plea deal, and he pleaded guilty. So it was like, whoa, Papadopoulos, oh my God, what did he give? Okay. Then later they seemed to panic, and his girlfriend came out, and she's like, oh, Mr. Trump, whatever you do, a pardon would be great, and hey, please, please, and so this is what they wanted a pardon for 14 days? So
maybe they took it down from 12 years to 14 days.
Like the investigation lasted longer. What we were talking about it. The rapper Lil Kim got more time in jail for lying
to the
someone who,
States.
right? I think it was like during a deposition or something, but he lied to the feds. That should be a scary thing, lying to the feds. It should be. I don't know if that makes it that scary. Also, the feds, they like to dole out punishment. This is interesting.
I really don't know what to do with this information.
Right?
That it's 2 weeks and 2 weeks for all of this. Now here's the first one. Maybe they're just getting warmed up. I don't know. But like 2 weeks, it doesn't feel like I got anything.
Right.
Yeah. So look, important context, and then we'll have a little bit of fun with guessing things that probably aren't true. So the context is that the reason he's getting 14 days is because he did cooperate with prosecutors. So obviously they got some sort of information that they found to be useful, otherwise the sentence would not have been that light. So I think that's the most important takeaway. Now the fun. Okay, so if in the beginning they give him a deal, but they haven't done the sentencing, then he panics and he's like, yeah, please pardon me, Donald Trump. And they had spoken out against Trump before that, so changing their minds and asking for the pardon was an indication that they were going to get a big sentence. And the girlfriend the fiance is going on TV all over the place saying the prosecutors basically implying that they lied to them. So then it seemed like there was going to be a big scary moment where he was going to get a decade or something. And then at the end he gets 14 days. So did something happen between their panic and the 14 days where they gave more information?
Well, one quote that I saw, and again, we didn't even have formal write-ups of this really, was he said that he couldn't guarantee that he hadn't said to Trump or the campaign during the campaign anything about the dirt that the Russians had acquired. I don't know if he said it to the Mueller investigators or the prosecutors or anything like that, but he couldn't confirm coming out of this sentencing whether he had told them about it. Again, I don't know what to do with that information. I'm just telling you what happened today.
And this is the reality of life. I see so many court dramas where people are giving or cooperating with the police and the authorities, and then it ends up leading to some kind of amazing dramatic moment. But this is not the bang, but the whimper. That's just like 14 days, and maybe we'll find out later. But it is good to see that like there was something that happened, and without him, it wouldn't. He was the one that started all these, as NPR writes, dominoes falling. But I guess it just keeps going. There's something that happened out of it, and we just need to keep paying attention as it proceeds.
So if you don't remember, last piece of context here is that Papadopoulos went and talked to an Australian diplomat. The Australian then went and told the US government, hey, this guy who's working on the Trump campaign has connections to the Russians that he's been telling me about. You guys should go investigate. The FBI then goes, oh, that's disconcerting. The presidential campaigns should not be talking to foreign governments no matter who they are. That starts the dominoes. And then the Trump team calls him a coffee boy and he's not a big deal. So there is dispute that we still don't know the answer to, obviously, and that's why we're partly speculating here as to how much he did know and how much he gave to Mueller's team. He clearly knew that there was a connection to the Russians and they found it valuable enough to give him a deal and give him a very, very light sentence. If it was just, hey, the Russians are interested in giving us information, I don't think he gets 14 days. But if he does have something about how he told Trump, the Russians have incriminating evidence about you, well, that would make it far more interesting. And perhaps that's why we have the lighter sentence. But for today, all we know is he did cooperate and he got 14-day sentence.
The other thing we know is that when on his alias, on his indictment, his alias is Coffee Boy. That's his official alias now.
So it turned out it was true.
I hear, no, his alias is Covfefe.
Covfefe.
Maybe that's what it was referring to.
I would like someone to keep a tally of how often during this show we come back around in this joke.
Okay, number one, it's one we've done.
Okay.
El Cofete.
We just have
We'll be
a
checking.
sneaky suspicion this is not the end.
We will see. So why don't we move on to last night's big rally? Donald Trump held a rally in Billings, Montana, and it was really something. He brought up the topic of impeachment, which is interesting because many of the Dems running in these races, especially the leadership, don't want to talk about impeachment. Doesn't mean anybody isn't, but they don't really want to focus on it in terms of the campaigns. But that's not the impression that Donald Trump is getting. And so he spoke about this argument over his potential impeachment and also who would be to blame if he were to be impeached, which you'll see in this clip.
They like to use the impeach word, impeach Trump. Maxine Waters, we will impeach him, but he didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter, we will impeach him. You know, I was thinking, if that happened, every time a Republican or a Democrat, opposite, got elected president. So let's say a Democrat gets elected someday. Hopefully it's a long time. But let's say a Democrat gets elected. And let's say we have a Republican House. We will impeach that Democrat, right? And then a Republican. And you do, then what you're going to have is you'll have a country that's going to turn into a third world country. Because if the opposite party becomes president, every time before it even starts, before you've even found out whether or not he or she is going to do a great job, they'll say, we want to impeach him, and you'll impeach him. It's so ridiculous. But we'll worry about that if it ever happens. But if it does happen, it's your fault because you didn't go out to vote. Okay? You didn't go out to vote.
Okay, that is one I'll give him where he did appear to be joking at least.
Yeah, so my favorite part of this is, can you imagine a scenario where a Democrat is president and the Republicans try to impeach him over something silly like maybe a consensual affair? Oh right, that already happened. Did we forget that that already happened? And he said throughout the rally, he's like, I mean, how do you impeach a guy who's doing really well? Well, first of all, those two things are not at all connected. So if you killed someone while the economy was doing well, you'd still get impeached, right? And the Democrat who was in office when the Republicans impeached him over something incredibly minor was presiding over an enormously successful economy, stock market booming, unemployment down, the deficit's down, turned into surpluses. So apparently it can be done, and it was done by your party.
But he didn't do anything wrong. Who cares? We'll impeach him. I do hear them say that a lot, the Democrats. He didn't do anything wrong, but we're gonna impeach him. No, that's not what they're saying.
I was gonna say, wait, that was, you sold that, because I was like, wait, I've never heard that.
Yeah, and considering all that he's done from day one, emoluments, not divesting, all of that, there's, I would say, very little talk about impeachment, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, Elizabeth
Warren
brought up.
Right now.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren brought up the 25th Amendment, but only as a result of someone inside of his White House bringing it up. That's what it took. I'm shocked that it's not more common of an argument.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you can focus on when you're crafting a message for change. And I really am gravitating toward people who are buying the impeached shirts. I like the impeached shirts. I think they're great. I think they're funny. You should totally get one from the TYT store because they're fantastic. But also I like all of the candidates who are just focusing on issues that people generally can support, get behind, agree with, and that will benefit a lot of Americans. And a lot of the people like the Beto O'Rourke's of the world are focusing on the issues. And I'm fine with that. So Trump is just setting up a straw man of all these people who are like, oh, it's immediately gonna be an impeachment. It's the punchline was a joke, but the setup was even more ridiculous. That's what got me.
Right, he could have taken the time, he could have absolutely broken down everyone who has mentioned impeach and their reasons why, and he could have come up with an argument against what they're saying, but instead he just wrapped it all up in something that isn't true. Yeah. They just want to do it for the sake of doing it. I never did anything wrong, or they're not saying I did anything wrong, which is not true.
And so to the point of it not being true, a couple of things. One, Nancy Pelosi is literally fighting against impeachment. Every time they ask her about it, she's like, that's not what we're gonna do. That's not a priority of ours. We're not gonna talk about it. In fact, I think she's panicking in the wrong direction. I don't need them to run their campaigns on impeachment. I agree 100% with Brett. Run it on healthcare, run it on economic dignity, better wages, et cetera. That's what the American people care about. impeachment is a responsibility if if the president has done something wrong. You can't shirk that responsibility because there's an election coming up and you think that, it might energize Republican voters to vote against you. And that actually seems to be a Democratic strategy. So Trump is actually saying the exact opposite of what the Democratic strategy is. There are some Democrats that he mentioned, like Maxine Waters and others, who say, yeah, impeachment. But overall, Democratic leadership's like, no, not impeachment. Not impeachment, because they're afraid to rile up Trump's base. Now, I think that's silly, but that's the strategy that they're doing. So it's the opposite of what Trump is saying. And then like his defense of the Republican Party as if like they would never do that. Like, could you imagine if they did it back and forth? I mean, other than the fact that I just explained they did do it. My God, now imagine if Hillary Clinton had won, but she wouldn't divest her money and then did some self-dealing and made deals with countries where she had personal investments. And then she wouldn't release her tax returns, so nobody ever knew what was in her tax returns and what other monies she could be making. And then she did a deal with Indonesia and China and ZTE. And then somebody wrote an op-ed saying, I'm inside her administration and she's lost her mind and you should use the 25th Amendment. And I can go on for half a day. Do you have any idea how quickly the Republicans would impeach?
Yeah.
Immediately, within 24 hours.
I agree. But we do have more videos I want to get to. Donald Trump, at his rallies, he tends to deliver the same message sort of over and over. It's a little bit practiced. He doesn't have notes, but it's sort of the same script. But that doesn't mean that at various points he doesn't have a little bit of trouble expressing his thoughts. And you're going to see that demonstrated right here.
The latest act of resistance is the op-ed published in the failing New York Times by an anonymous, gutless coward. You just look.
I don't know what that was.
No, it's so childish to laugh at that.
I know, but it's impossible to not. I mean, so in another part of this speech, he said, they say that I don't have the mental capacity. Okay, first of all, I wouldn't be talking about that. Okay, and he says, how could they say that? I give all these speeches. He said it in a Fox News interview before one of the rallies. He said, I give all these speeches and people can see I talk for an hour straight. I know, we did see. When you say anonymous, you don't know how to say anonymous. Well, you're not really proving your case that you're in a wonderful mental state. That doesn't seem like, if it is Exhibit A, I would argue that it's in the opposite direction.
And he never got it. Like, most people will go anonymous, oh, this is a tough word, anonymous. But he was just like, I'm just gonna go on and not acknowledge it. And in both videos that we have seen so far, he just starts saying these words. So many words. I don't understand what must be going through the mind of most people in the audience. It's almost like they're listening to him going like, no, you got it, buddy. You'll get there eventually.
Right.
You got it. I know when you say these two people from the Democrat, Republican, the opposite, they just, I don't know.
Well,
help him out. Someone who didn't show their face.
I've been very frustrated the few times that I do tune into these rallies that when he says something crazy, you don't see a reaction behind him because we don't see most of the people in the crowd. The only people we see are the people standing behind him. And generally, they love it. It doesn't matter what he says, how crazy it is, how rambling it is, ominously. It doesn't matter. But not last night, where there was actually an individual behind him who was not having it, who I personally believe might be the resistor inside of the White House. But anyway, here he is. You'll notice his face pretty immediately.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFDR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
An enormous, really an enormous, gutless coward. Seriously, people that don't exactly dig us and they don't exactly like me, they're fighting for us. It's an incredible, it's actually a beautiful thing. We've picked up a lot of support because at some point this whole thing is going to be exposed. Other countries, by the way, are not doing well at all. And had I not won, we would have been in negative. We wouldn't be at 4.2. We would have been in negative numbers. We were going down. And the tax cuts, we freed up our country, and it's great to watch. I mean, okay. Tell me, is raising your taxes like supposed to be a popular thing to do? Because what's going on, they have been driven ever an economy like we have. Nobody's ever had this economy. So hopefully you're going to remember that. Where we took that horrible Iran deal and we terminated it, and you look at what's going on. We're respected again as a nation.
As Brooke noticed, the thing that bothered him most, getting out of the Iran deal.
Right, he was like, all right, okay.
That was just a bridge too far.
It's too far.
So they had him removed for making funny faces.
Right.
Yeah, they took him out.
I actually thought that was mild because I saw the headline, right? And I thought he was going to be doing a Trump imitation in the background going,
No.
we have a very strong economy. No, he was just like making tiny little faces. They're like, remove him, he does not agree with the president 100%.
Well, there's one point where Trump starts talking about how it was harder for him to win the electoral college than it is for someone to win the popular vote. And the guy behind him literally just goes, what?
Right. Just by definition, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So then they do, and then when they bring someone out to replace him, it is amazing. It is just like someone jaunts out and like, he just kind of looks and sees someone approaching him and he kind of knows the jig's up and then he walks off to the side. But then they replace the two people standing next to him.
They were worried
They're
it
like,
had
get everybody out of
been,
there.
the infection had spread.
Yeah.
I, for one, am offended that blacks for Trump are not represented in that background shot this time because Diamond and Silk would never.
Maybe they thought the two people next to him were like Diamond and Silk, just going like,
Do you think it was, this guy absolutely was like, I'm going to see if I can get right behind Trump the
I
whole
was thinking
way.
that thing, like, if
the
this was the
alternative-
plan, how did he get, just ended up too perfect?
Yeah, well, they must not have their extreme vetting in place. But yeah, because I love the alternative. The alternative is more funny. He's like, oh, this Trump guy seems pretty great. And then this is the first time he's actually listened. He's like, oh my God, he's lost it.
He's the last American who could change their mind politically.
He's like,
Everyone
I just
else
caught
knows
up on
what
House of Cards. So what's this guy about?
he's like, I came in here believing that Q Mom was right.
Ominous, actually. Most people don't know about Anonymous. It's women who have kids and are hackers, and they fight against the government.
But yeah, when he mispronounced anonymous, he actually was trying to say aneurysm, which is
Anonymous is Legion. And finally, Brent noticed when he said tax cuts, the guy mouthed for the rich.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how you know that he was not a Trump
Because
supporter.
it's like, when are raising your taxes a good thing? And everyone's watching.
the plaid threw them off. It's an ambiguous material.
So you want to take the first break?
Yeah, okay, if you say so. All right, guys. Apparently, John is making us take the first break.
Almost halfway through the first hour. Usually we take the first break around 8 p.m. Pacific, but I think we'll go early this time.
Okay. So when we come back, you're going to be shocked to find out that Donald Trump has lauded a criminal. He bragged about it on stage. We'll show you. All right, back on the Young Turks. So let me do YouTube super chat real quick. Gina Dam says, I love Cenk's juxtapositions. They're always eye-opening. Why, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I didn't even, I had more. imagine if Hillary Clinton, if she was president, just tweeted "Covfefe" and said, "Yeah, I meant it. It's a secret code word." QAnon, Republicans would go crazy. She's lost her mind, brain aneurysm, and that was one of like the smaller controversies out of Trump's billion controversies.
You need none of that. Imagine if she wore a tan suit.
Well, that does
over.
sound really bad.
A couple days ago, Trump just tweeted treason? ? And nobody even really talked about it. It was just treason, all caps with a question mark. Nobody cared.
No context, no nothing.
Doesn't matter.
Because we know the president's lost his mind and we've gotten used to it. Okay, so Feedback says, just joined as a member as a birthday gift for myself. Now that's a good gift, okay?
Gift that keeps on giving.
That's right. As an Australian, anything that happens in the US directly affects us. And it's time we got into this fight. Too strong. Thank you. Feedbacks, we appreciate it. That's awesome. Now, speaking of members, let me go through real quick. There's a lot of them, but they're short. Evan says, hi, it's my first time watching live as a member from Southern California. Hey, that's where we are. Maybe one day we could run into you.
Stop it.
Okay.
No, now it's just me.
One more time,
Someone
and by the
tweeted
Beatles
at me.
rule, it sticks.
Someone tweeted the Napoleon Dynamite thing at me during the break. That's exactly what it is.
Steven, TYT needs to bring back the arm wrestling tournament. I'd love to see El Jefe versus Johnny Two Cakes.
Yeah, we've had that match before.
Yeah, but you're swole as hell now.
That's right.
I know, it's a new Johnny Two Cakes.
I'm always sore.
Yeah, okay, oh yeah. It's already making excuses.
You never actually get to use it. I don't know.
Okay,
Right, it's so funny.
So Steven, all I have to say to you is,
at TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
hold.
Oh, come on.
Wow. No, I don't know. We got a membership drive. I don't know. You guys asked. We got to deliver, right? That's our job. Anyway, we'll see. Nathaniel says, I love this show, the best progressive show ever. I'm an activist level. This is the best money I spend all year. Love all the shows. Thank you. By the way, happy half hour with Brett Ehrlich. Damage Report with John Idarola. Everybody sign up for Rate His Podcast.
Please.
Okay.
On iTunes.
Yes.
5 stars
every
preferably.
Monday.
Yeah.
And then tweet me the screenshot so that I can send you a unique, awesome GIF.
Really?
That's what I've been doing. That has been the transaction.
Oh, I
you
like
rate it 5
that.
stars,
GIF
I
game.
send you a GIF.
Just the internal email GIF game by John Idarola has been insanely good lately.
When Gina books a good guest. Oh, by the way, in 2 weeks we have an awesome guest in studio that I've been trying to get for like 5 months now.
Wow.
Yeah, I always send her back an encouraging, awesome GIF.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
What's with all the gifts and how come I've never gotten one?
I don't
Okay,
know.
I'm not saying anything. I haven't said a
Rate
word.
the podcast.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure I want a gift from Johnny Two Cakes. Okay. Exmentis says only 14 days. Papadopoulos must have given FBI something really valuable. These are all member comments, by the way, on TYT Live, TYT.com/live. Earlier, Brent mentioned the shop. It's shoptyt.com. Larry says, Cenk, is it normal for a president to be having rallies all the time like he is, like he's still on the campaign trail, and who's paying for all of them? Good question on who's paying for all of them. I actually want to look into that a little bit more. Thank you for bringing that up. Do you know how many campaign rallies he's had overall, including the campaign? 520. No.
Right,
That's
that's
amazing.
massive.
That's more than the number of holes of golf he's played.
Wait, is
Probably
it
not.
normal?
Probably not.
No.
Rounds.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
No, it isn't. He
Yeah.
just loves it. He loves being a showman. That's the only thing, part of the job he enjoys.
Although, if Obama had done rallies but centered around policies, I think that we would have really encouraged that. Like if
No, I don't. If he'd even done entertainment, I would have liked it. No, I don't mind the rallies at all. That's so, especially when we go interview schmucks out. Anyway, and some interesting people, and we learn some stuff, etc. Anyway, no, I'm not one of those progressives like, oh, he does too many rallies. Hey, he's president, he can do whatever he wants. And he's getting his message out, which Obama didn't do enough, to be honest, okay? Jonathan says, just joined, love the fact that I'll be able to watch the post-game show. Thank you, Jonathan. And Mark M1427 says, removing someone for making a facial expression, snowflake much?
Yeah, good point.
All good points by the members. tyt.com/join to become a member. All right, what's next, John?
Okay, well, you just mentioned that Obama didn't do enough speeches when he was president. Well, now he's not president. President Barack Obama returned to give a speech in Illinois where I believe that he was more openly critical of Donald Trump than he's been since before the 2016 election. We've got a number of different clips, but this first one's gonna summarize the general tone of his argument pretty well.
The status quo pushes back. Sometimes the backlash comes from people who are genuinely, if wrongly, fearful of change. More often it's manufactured by the powerful and the privileged who want to keep us divided and keep us angry and keep us cynical because that helps them maintain the status quo and keep their power and keep their privilege. It did not start with Donald Trump. He is a symptom, not the cause. He's just capitalizing on resentments that politicians have been fanning for years. A fear and anger that's rooted in our past, but it's also born out of the enormous upheavals that have taken place in your brief lifetimes.
Oh, so that's what an intelligent president sounded like. And so Trump hears that speech, and the correct reaction to that should be embarrassment. Like, oh, he speaks in complete sentences and actually is eloquent and makes interesting points. Instead, Trump said, it was so boring, I fell asleep watching the speech.
Wasn't the speech pretty early in the day?
Yeah, but he'd already been
I
up
guess
for 10 hours eating.
when it was nap time. But what you said was right. This is absolutely the I guess harshest critique ever. This is definitely the first time the former president has criticized President Trump while using his name, like by name, publicly in a speech. And I think a lot of people were like, whoa, as soon as they saw it, come out of his mouth.
By the way, I want to say one other thing. So he generally, this is the most critical he's been, but even that, it's very like poet laureate critical.
Yeah.
And still, the right responds with, this is why you got Trump, lay off him. Whereas Trump's speech is, they're Antifa bastards who are gonna kill you all. But this is too critical. This is how much I'm referring there to Ben Shapiro with the this is why you got Donald Trump. They can't take any criticism whatsoever, even if it's a nuanced analysis of historical trends being played on by deceitful politicians. But Donald Trump says they love ISIS, they love MS-13, and the right cheers for that. That's totally fair. Totally fair point, perfectly fine.
It's simple, quick, and to the point. I mean, that's what it is. It's just that. We had to jump cut Obama speaking because he takes his time, and I like it. And that is something that resonates with me, and I'm grateful for President Obama speaking in a way that I would hope and need more my president to speak like. But Trump's speaking to his folks, and he's saying it very quickly in a combination of two things. One, it's very simple and reduced. And then the other one, it's just, I'm gonna be done talking in 2 seconds after saying buzzwords you've read in headlines, so then you can clap.
Yeah.
Right.
And incredibly repetitive.
It was a long speech, and he kind of joked around about being quiet, and that angered a lot of people. Like just him being quiet over all of this time. But this long speech, he touched on almost everything that broke in the news that people were asking him to talk about. He kind of hit everything in this hour and a half long speech.
To John's point, you might be a snowflake if you get triggered by nuanced analysis. Okay, so and what has Trump said about Obama? People are like, Obama might be breaking decorum here by criticizing a sitting president when he's a former president. Decorum? We're still having a conversation about decorum? Trump said Obama wasn't even an American. Trump said 100 terrible things about Obama while he was president. And afterwards, while Trump is president, he hasn't respected that rule at all. He tweets all the time about how Obama should be investigated by the Department of Justice. He's basically threatening to lock up Obama, and Obama has to follow decorum? I mean, come on. God, there is no bigger whiners in the world than right-wingers in America.
Yeah.
Like, if they think, oh, you should say Merry Christmas, and I'm gonna crush it, you're a Mr. and lip-tart. And you're like, hey, I think you might be a little off there. Oh, I can't believe you said that. That's why Trump won. You guys always about this. Obama said that this guy is the symptom, not the cause. He said symptom, not the cause. I don't know what that means. God, you guys are such snowflakes. You're such babies.
This is just me speculating here, but Brooke mentioned this word earlier. Maybe they just do need a nap. Like, what if it's just that they need a nap? Because it is like this complaining, like, no, when you were tired and angry, and your parents were like, I think it's nap time, they would just be, no, I don't want to do it. I'm totally aware.
Yeah.
They pass out. I don't know. Maybe
I think the rally should start with a good 15-minute nap.
just a quick nap.
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing about this. Because I want to talk about the substance of what Obama said. The best line he had was that Trump is the symptom, not the cause. And that's very similar to a line Naomi Klein said here on the Young Turks. She said, if we go back to a time where we get rid of Trump, right? Well, that's a time so bad that it created Trump. So that's not good enough. Resistance is not good enough. What we need is true reform or revolution. Now, Obama doesn't go that far because he's not that guy. He's a fairly establishment figure, keep it real, okay? But it is an excellent point that he is making, saying, look, if you just got rid of Trump, that isn't the problem. The problem is there is a great anger in the country and a resentment and a paranoia that he talked about throughout the speech. And the Republican Party in mass is feeding into that. The reason you got Trump is because they did the Southern strategy. They went to go try to appeal to racists in the South. And then they did dog whistles, and then the whistles got a little louder until they turned into a megaphone. That's Donald Trump rallies going, oh, the left, the immigrants, they're terrible, and every black person he ever talks about is low IQ. I mean, how's that for ironic, right? For Trump. And so I think that that's the thing we need to focus on. And if anything, Obama needed to be much harsher and more frequent. I mean, this is the first time he's come out. There's 2 months left before the election. My God, man, up and at him. Yeah. He keeps punching you in the face. And okay, but you're retired, I get it. And I know you're writing a book, etc. But there's all these people who need your help. So the Republicans claim, oh yeah, we like to see Obama, we like to see him more, that's why we want. No, he's sitting at nearly 60% approval rating. Trump's in the 30s. Obama is nearly twice as popular as Donald Trump. He should be out there all the time making that case.
Yeah. Is there any truth to that though, that just seeing him invigorates and just fires up Trump's base? Is there any?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And if Trump was up for re-election, it wouldn't make any difference because every racist is gonna go vote for him anyway, right? And so when they see Obama, yeah, that gets under the racist skin, right? In the midterms, it's a little bit different. They might be like, I don't know, I'm gonna have a beer instead and yell at the TV. Oh, I saw Obama. But overall, no, people get excited to vote. And that's what turns them out. Right. So when Trump was up for election, some of them were excited about throwing a brick through the establishment window. They're like, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I'm gonna go out there and vote against her. Or I like Trump because he's saying I'm bringing back coal jobs. I'm a coal miner. Or I like the 1950s. I want to go back to that era. All these different things. I know, right? So, but right now, the Democrats are animated. Right. And they're super mad at what's happened since then. Well, there's a good way to fix that. So overall, this is how Republicans try to get you to not do anything. They go, Democrats, you better not speak out. Obama, you better not speak out. Otherwise, our guys will get mad and show up to vote. Okay, then nobody ever makes their case. No, don't listen to, I got newsflash for you guys. The Republican Party is not concerned about what's good for the Democrats. Do not take advice from them. So very likely it's the exact opposite. No, you should go and make your case nonstop.
Yeah. There were a lot of other good quotes, but I do think that we have to move on. A few other things we want to touch on this hour.
Okay, all right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, is Kavanaugh going to end Roe v. Wade, and how is he going to end it? Because I think how is the really interesting part. And I actually think with all those protests, there haven't been enough protests with these confirmation hearings. But I'll unveil my plan that will not happen when we return. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, Become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. A quick note from our sponsors, NordVPN. They protect your computers so nobody gets to see where any of the websites that you went to. Rudy Giuliani made this mistake, and Avenatti got some of his URLs. That was disastrous. You saw Alex Jones make a mistake on live on video, etc. So don't make that same mistake. In this case, you're gonna get 77% off if you go to nordvpn.com/TYT or use the promo code TYT. You can connect up to 6 devices at once, and it has military-grade encryption. So they're not messing around. They got a perfect score from PCMag. nordvpn.com/TYT to get 77% off. Okay, I'm gonna read a bunch of comments as quickly as I can. Member comments first. Now, lots of disagreements on Obama here. YNP7 says, Obama's not wrong. Trump is a symptom. He forgot to mention that Obama and the other corporate Democrats are the cause. Damn. Okay. Then Tarantula writes in, man, Obama really gets it. I may have criticisms, but he understands and articulates the economic and social issues. Wish he'd done more of that. Okay, or wish he'd done more than that. MHops84 says, is this evidence that Obama watches Jimmy Dore? That would be awesome. Okay, I mean, of all the shows, if Obama was like, I mean, look, Jimmy's on point here.
Sits down.
So he's now talking about Medicare for all, so you never know. Okay, Sky Spider says, I've been a member for a few years. I live on a $750 disability a month and still donate $10 a month to you because you're the only people advocating for my rights. Please keep supporting the disabled.
Amazing.
That's
wow.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. And look, we take that responsibility really seriously. So we are trying to fight for all of your rights to the best of our abilities. Now here's one that's against Obama again. This is on Twitter. Real Larry Vetter says, I sure hope Obama's speech doesn't negatively impact his Goldman Sachs speaking fees.
Okay.
He, for the record, has not spoken to Goldman Sachs. That was Hillary Clinton. Okay, does he get speaking fees? Yes. Are they enormous? Yes, but not to Goldman Sachs. The North remembers and has written on YouTube Super Chat, Brett should have his own comedy series. I sometimes feel like we live in a parallel universe where John Krasinski somehow got Brett's career by mistake. I know it's random, but still, true story.
No, that's so right.
That's Jack Ryan over there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like, okay, so everyone's getting those like ads for the Jack Ryan series, right? Okay, it's not just me. I felt like it was just karma being like, you suck. Worse was a Men's Health magazine cover where he's just like, abs. And I'm like, ugh, that's what I'd look like if I worked out.
If it makes you feel better, probably not.
All right, thank you guys, and tyt.com.
I'm sorry.
All of a sudden, Johnny Two Cakes doing bust nuts.
Johnny jokes.
Okay.
I've been
Johnny
saving
Two
it
Jokes.
up.
Okay.
Okay.
He did do two at the same time.
Right. tyt.com/join to become a member. Thank you.
We paused from our regularly scheduled programming because the breaking news team rushed in here during the break. Breaking news team's name is Jen. And she handed me this piece of paper saying that Manafort, Paul Manafort, former Trump campaign chairman, is apparently considering a plea deal to avoid a second trial, wherein he would plead guilty to some of the charges he's currently facing in that second trial to avoid that second trial, which will begin in about a month in Washington, D.C.
All right, let's talk about why. First of all, he's now facing life in prison, given how long his sentence will be. And so that has got to be daunting, to say the least. I originally thought that there was a 50% chance that Paul Manafort might or might not have any evidence on Donald Trump. Paul Manafort is a criminal in his own right and had done deals with pro-Russian Ukrainian forces that he did not accurately report to the American government. That's what he got convicted of recently. And I thought, well, it just might have been his scam and not connected to Donald Trump. But Donald Trump's panic after Paul Manafort was convicted convinced me that in fact he does have evidence on Trump, because Trump started tweeting like a madman, would wake up in the middle of the night going, voting, witch hunt, rigged, and go back to sleep. Okay, and he kept saying, like, started talking about pardons to immediately. And Rudy Giuliani said, well, we probably won't pardon him now, but we might pardon him later.
Right.
So this is obvious. That's like obstruction of justice in plain sight. So they were obviously very, very worried about what Manafort might say. Now this deal might be, no, I'm just taking a normal plea deal like anybody would. I'm not gonna go through trial and hence I get a lesser sentence and not turning any evidence against Trump. So you don't know that yet. Or it could be, here's your evidence against Trump if he has any, and now I'll take a lesser sentence.
Yeah.
So we'll find out probably soon enough.
But this story is to be expected though after the news we got at the top of the show. I think any lawyer team would be like, okay, wait, let's go back to this. Let's think about this. Let's talk about this now.
Yeah.
Not that he can expect 2 weeks to come out of it, but it still makes you think that maybe a plea isn't our worst option.
Yeah, I mean, so Brooks referring to Papadopoulos getting 14 days, another member of Trump's campaign. So if that was the sentence was so light in return for more information, well, the dominoes continue to fall. And one way we'll find out is at about 1 a.m. this morning when Trump gets up to tweet something maniacal, then you'll have a sense of how serious it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he said, I went through a trial process. It sucked. I'm going to get sentenced for it and then appeal, but I'm already in for this much. I'll just say yes to something else, and he can still be relying on a pardon.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to our probably our last topic of the first hour. There's a lot of important stuff developing this week, but by far the most important is the confirmation process for Brett Kavanaugh, because he's an awful right-wing ideologue who, if he gets on the court, will be determining policy in any number of different areas for something like 30 plus years. So enjoy that if it happens. And one of the most important areas is a woman's continued reproductive rights, which he would love for you to believe that he is in support of, because he constantly says that it's the settled law of the land, which is interesting because he talked about that topic in an email that was thankfully released this week, saying, I am not sure that all legal scholars refer to Roe as the settled law of the land at the Supreme Court level, since court can always overrule its precedent, and 3 current justices on the court would do so. So that's what he was saying in private when he wasn't trying to get on the Supreme Court, pointing out that, if you get enough right-wingers on the Supreme Court, you can just eliminate the entire thing. So he was asked about that email during these confirmation hearings by Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who said, is it a fact, Judge, also that while you were in the Bush White House, you took the position that not all legal scholars actually believe that Roe v. Wade is a settled law of the land and that the Supreme Court could always overturn it as precedent, and in fact there were a number of justices who would do so? And Kavanaugh responded, I think that's what legal scholars have. Some legal scholars have undoubtedly said things like that over time, but that's different from what I as a judge. My position as a judge is that there's 45 years of precedent, and there's Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which reaffirmed Roe. So that's precedent on precedent, as I've explained, and that's important. And that's an important precedent to the Supreme Court. So he attempted to talk about the email as if it was someone else that he's rebutting. But that was him, and that wasn't him as like, a right-wing 18-year-old, college Republican. That was him as an experienced right-wing lawyer in the Bush White House saying, don't even worry about this. If we get enough right-wingers on the court, we can get rid of it. And now he's attempting to do just that.
Remember, he's a political apparatchik. He grew up in politics. So he worked with Karl Rove, he worked in the Bush White House, and his job was to, be partisan on these issues. And now, I'm not in the camp of TV pundits who are like, oh my God, they're just supposed to call balls and strikes. We all know they're political, of course. The liberals are political, the conservatives are political, but this guy worked in politics. So his job was to try to get people onto the courts that wanted to overturn Roe versus Wade when he worked for the Bush White House. So now, and he already had a chance to rule on at least a related case, in a case where the US government was holding a pregnant immigrant minor. He voted in that case or ruled in that case. Now, luckily he lost, he was in dissenting opinion, but he ruled that she should not be allowed to get an abortion. So, and understand that it's not a necessarily binary. Well, either there is abortion or there is not abortion allowed in this country. There's 1,000 ways to chip away at abortion rights. Will Kavanaugh do that, even though he's claiming, oh, I respect precedent and Roe versus Wade is precedent? I'm guaranteeing you right now that he will. Look, it's in his political job. It was part and parcel to lie. And he coached other people because he was trying to get judges on. That was literally his job in the Bush administration. He would say, hey, make sure you don't answer the questions. Make sure you say, oh, it's important for the judiciary to be independent, et cetera. That's also in the emails and the memos. So here he is going, well, I'm not saying I'm gonna vote for it or against it. I'm just saying it's precedent, and a lot of people respect precedent and some people don't. That's not a useful answer. Yeah. And so it would be shocking if he didn't at least take away a lot of the rights that there are in different states. And we can talk about all those different restrictions that he could vote on.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the areas where he's obviously been put there to do this. This is what he wants to do. But there are any number of other areas where he's going to be absolutely terrible. He apparently, in every instance where he's been able to vote on something having to do with the environment, this is a guy who apparently doesn't believe that he lives on Earth because he's willing to see it, be set on fire, turn toxic, all of that. They did an analysis of 12 years of his record on the circuit court, and when there was corporate interests versus the people's interests, he voted with the corporations 87% of the time. And that's workers' rights, that's labor, and that's the environment. It's all of this. And so if he gets on, and right now they have the votes probably to get him on, you're going to be hearing about him helping to determine. We could have had it the other way. It could have been 6-3. It's going to be 5-4 conservative, at least, assuming Trump doesn't get another 1 or 2 in the next few years on all of these areas. And this should hopefully remind people that while there are many things that should determine who you vote for president, there is perhaps nothing individually as important as the sorts of Supreme Court justices that they would choose. But in terms of how he will get rid of abortion rights, because we've seen how this goes in states like Texas, where they just continually take away more and more of it, there are a lot of cases right now working their way through the appeals courts. They're just one stop from the Supreme Court. He could be ruling on these cases. And so you have June Medical Services versus James Caldwell in Louisiana, which is challenging a 2014 law requiring physicians providing abortions to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital. If that makes it to the Supreme Court, in their decision, he could effectively eliminate Roe v. Wade. You don't have to be bound to what's in the actual case that you're considering. In Texas, there's Whole Woman's Health versus Ken Paxton et al., challenging a 2017 Texas law banning a second trimester abortion procedure called dilation and evacuation. In Kentucky, there's one. If we jump ahead, Ohio, Indiana. We're not going to go through all of them. We're not going to show you all of them. There's at least 12 or 13 right now, let alone ones that'll come in future years. Any one of those could result in either a massive dialing back of your rights under Roe v. Wade or the complete elimination of it. And it appears at this point that if he gets on the court, the best case scenario you can hope for is that technically Roe v. Wade will still exist, but will actually guarantee nothing. It is possible they will just entirely reverse it. But they seem set to effectively remove any ability it has to ensure your reproductive rights.
Right. All of these cases, just looking at them all together, they essentially ban abortion. States are using all of these different reasons, banning abortion on the basis of citizenship, the age of the mom, parental permission, Down syndrome, fetal disability, forcing ultrasounds. And I think none of these, the argument against it is none of these have the benefit of the patient, and that in most of these cases, they actually cause harm.
And it just keeps going and going, because a lot of these cases hinge on state legislature enacted laws. So that's from your state legislature. So Indiana, say, passed a law and it's made its way up to the Supreme Court because the regional court, the district court blocked it and it's making its way to the Supreme Court. What's so frustrating about this is there's a lot of state legislature voting district boundaries that are so gerrymandered, and the place that buck stops when it gets appealed can be all the way up to the Supreme Court. Yeah. And then there's another reason to keep your Supreme Court, but that's also another reason that you need to fight extra hard to make sure that these laws aren't passed in the first place, and that you do have some kind of review on how your districts are being drawn. And you need to fight extra hard, because this is the time when hopefully they're falling asleep when it comes to voting for your local legislators. And you need to be the most awake you've ever been.
So I'm just going to give 3 quick examples. John mentioned needing admitting privileges in a hospital to be able to provide an abortion. You might think, well, what's the big deal about that? No, that's a trick. So for example, in Louisiana, then the hospitals deny admitting privileges to people who are doing abortions, and then you have effectively ended abortion in that state. So that way there's no big moment where they go Roe versus Wade is dead and people get really animated and upset and they go and vote Republicans out because 2/3 of the country is pro-choice. You just drift off to sleep and they get what they want quietly. And that way, Kavanaugh can say, well, I didn't kill Roe versus Wade, I just ruled on these cases. Another one says, they request a patient's entire pregnancy history before they allow an abortion. You know what that means? Tell me all the people you're sleeping with, okay? It is gross, it's invasive, and it's meant to intimidate women so that they don't make choices about their own bodies and their own health care. Another one is a bill in Indiana that Vice President Mike Pence was in favor of, where you have to ceremonially bury or cremate the remains of the fetus. And they make the women do that. That is gross, it's unbelievable. And so they do all these different ways so they effectively end your rights and try to make sure that you don't notice. So that's the trick that's being played here. I wish that, first of all, that all Americans, the 2/3 of us that are pro-choice, had surrounded the building while they were doing these hearings. It would have been an amazing visual if Women's March had come down during these hearings and surrounded the building. That would have been amazing. So now, and then finally, most importantly, what you need to surround is the polls. And you go out and vote. And now women are voting in record numbers so far in the primaries already. So that's great, great news. But it's not a joke, it's not hyperbole, it's not a hypothetical. They are taking away your rights as we speak. And they want to lord over your bodies and your will and your dignity as a person. They believe in big government that gets between you and your doctor. So the only question that remains is, are you going to let them? So we are way out of time here. And sorry guys, I promised you the story about Donald Trump supporting a criminal. First of all, fill in the blank, right? No. Manafort, Flynn, and the list goes on. In this case, I was referring to in his Montana rally, he supported Gianforte. He's the congressman in Montana that slammed a reporter to the ground and got arrested for it and got a sentence. And Donald Trump viewed that as a positive thing. And he said he's a fighter for the state in many ways, and joking around about how it was the right thing to do. And then they say, oh, Antifa and the left is violent. No, the president is bragging about how a Republican congressman committed an assault on a reporter, and the same kind of reporters that he calls enemy of the people. Yeah. So this is the violence that they encourage on a daily basis. All right, we got to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to see if we pass 30,000. So that's interesting. We've got a whole new power panel. So everybody check out Happy Half Hour. Brooke Thomas is on nearly every Young Turk show. Okay.
Every Monday on the Damage Report.
Yeah.
That's right. Check out the Damage Report and give it a 5-star rating on the whatever podcasting network you work on. All right, we'll be back with a new power panel. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.